On this month's episode of Black Girl Talks Pop. Who are these girls? JYPE is desperate enough to listen to our feedback. They're setting her up to be the next Taeyeon or Boa.
Friends will go away, and then you look back and say, what happened to my face?
Hey y'all, my name's Ada Grace, and you're listening to my podcast, Black Girl Talks Pop, where I talk about pop culture and all the hits and misses in between. I'm back, and I've got a new way of doing things around here. I'm decided to have at least one public and one Patreon episode each month. This will be my public episode for March, and in 2 weeks' time, I'll have a full Patreon episode that you can check out for just $5 a month. For $5 a month, you'll be able to access hidden episodes of Season 3, as well as the full episodes of Season 2. This will give me a chance to talk about more topics. Speaking of which, for the upcoming Patreon, I'll be reviewing the latest comebacks for 2022, including the third album of one of my Girls' Generation biases. Hint, she's the only one promoting music right now, and she's saying that Girls' Generation might reunite for their 15th anniversary. Why are you playing these games? Anyway, for this episode, I'm going to introduce a new segment and talk about some K-pop events that have grinded my gears. I'll also share part of my discussion with Nat that didn't make it onto last month's episode due to time, but I thought it fit with the topic of this episode. It's Women's History Month, so I'm ready to stand up for girls and women in the K-pop industry at various points of their career, and I can't wait to hear your opinion. Leave a comment on my YouTube channel or feel free to talk to me on my Twitter and Instagram at Black Girl Talks Pop. That's BLK Girl Talks Pop. Speaking of my YouTube channel where you can watch the video podcast, I have 10 subscribers and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Even if you're just listening to the podcast, thank you as well. Wherever you're watching and or listening, make sure that you like the episode, subscribe or follow, and leave a rating or review. Now, let's chat. So in her defense, in this segment, in her defense, I'm going to try to add some kindness and nuance to a conversation about a woman, or in this case, a group of young girls that are having a hard time right now. To introduce this segment, I'd like to talk about the debut of JYP Entertainment, or JYPE's, newest girl group, NMIXX. At the end of February, the Daily Mail decided to publish a story about NMIXX going viral by debuting the worst K-pop song of all time. I personally feel that this is misogyny at work. First of all, I don't think NMIXX went viral until the Daily Mail published this article, because it's not like all of my K-pop mutuals were talking about this song until this article came out. The title of the article really gets me because the title of Worst K-pop Song of All Time is not true. Each part of the song is perfectly fine, and some parts are more enjoyable than others, but we'll get to that. The problem is that the different parts of the song don't naturally fit together, and the producers and composers of the song didn't do anything to transition us from each part. The song isn't the worst or even bad, it's just poorly produced. Now that doesn't mean the song is good, so let's talk about it. I'm a Girls' Generation fan, otherwise known as a Seohyun, which is Korean for wish. As a Seohyun, when I heard "Oh," I immediately thought of my girl's song, I Got a Boy. I dashed over to the better song, and I wasn't the only one. Girls' Generation's I Got a Boy is the song that introduced me to the idea that a song can just be a medley of several other songs. And I believe that the success of I Got a Boy inspired many other companies to have their groups do the same thing. Or should I say, try the same thing. I think SM Entertainment is the only company that often gets it more right than not. I want to compare I Got a Boy to "Oh" and talk about why one succeeded where the other one failed. First of all, I Got a Boy's MV has a storyline. The girls are dating the same guy. Some girls continue the relationship while others break things off. K-pop is a visual medium. While fans mostly care about visuals, only certain groups can afford to experiment musically. I think that SM knew that making I Got a Boy the single of their fourth album was a risky move, so they gave the girls a new look, had them do more daring choreography, and gave us a bright, cute concept. With a hint of girl crush, it was like Lisa Frank is a bad girl in the music video. Even if you didn't like the song, you wanted to know what would happen in the next scene. The girls are either going on dates, giving us choreography, or even giving us a callback to the early days of R&B by having Taeyeon do their own Dreamgirls moment. If Nimmix was a confusing song with a glorious music video, maybe there'd be less complaints that the song is the most interesting Coke Zero commercial we've ever seen. Secondly, I Got a Boy's lyrics make sense. It's in the title. They love their boy and are trying their best to break free of the friend zone by adopting a sexier style. They're hoping to have that teen movie moment where a guy falls in love because a girl takes off her glasses and wears a tight dress. It's toxic, I know. There are many K-pop songs that have repetitive sounds or words as a chorus. For example, there's Twice as Likely, Big Bang's Bang Bang Bang, SHINee's Ring Ding Dong, and Girls' Generation's G. But the verses often add context. In Nimmix's case, the girls spend most of the song bragging about how they're the real thing, but I didn't see a display of tangible skills. I didn't get a vocal moment to hold on to. I got a dance break, but I didn't get a grasp on who the strongest dancer is. Sure, the group showed me that they look young enough to be girl crush and cute at the same time, but who are these girls? This brings me to my last point. I Got a Boy provides a high-level guide to the group. Sure, Seohyun only says 8 words, but she looks good, and that's mostly her role in the group. I'd like to introduce y'all to the 8, always 9 in our hearts, members of the nation's girl group, Girls' Generation. I'll introduce the group using what I think the casual viewer would conclude after watching the I Got a Boy music video. In my opinion, the main vocalist would be Tiffany and Taeyeon. That's only half true because Tiffany is a lead vocal, and another second tier or lead vocalist would be Seohyun, which is correct. The face of the group would be Jessica, as she gets 2 different looks and reveals a fun twist of the song. This isn't completely true. I'd say that the faces of the group are Taeyeon and Yoona. Jessica was a main vocal along with Taeyeon and a very popular member before her departure in 2014. Based on the video, one would think that the English speakers would be Seohyun, Jessica, and Tiffany. However, Seohyun is famously bad at speaking English, but she speaks Korean and Japanese, so have some respect. Tiffany and Jessica were the English speakers, and during the group's more active years, Seohyun became fluent in English. She tried to take over Jessica's spot and engage with Tiffany in English at concerts after Jessica left, but that wasn't happening. Anyway, although Yoona is not fluent in English, she's been giving her own English tagline to say from time to time. She's also fluent in Japanese and Chinese. I've always been impressed with the language skills of SNSD. But back to the point, Yoona's the one who says, "I like to party," in OT8's most recent comeback, All Night. A great song with very awesome cameos, so check it out. The third tier or sub-vocalist of the group would be Sunny. She's technically a lead vocalist, but she gets fewer lines than Tiffany and Seohyun. You're drawn in by her unique vocal color and perfected cuteness, and in spite of the stylist effort, she manages to pull off the mushroom hair in my opinion. I think a casual viewer would think the main dancer and rapper is Seohyun, and that's correct. She has a moment to show off some of her moves and her husky voice with her rap. If you think that Seohyun and Yuri are gorgeous and considered to be the visuals of the group, you'd be correct. They're also the lead dancers. Seohyun, Hyoyeon, and Yuri are part of an unofficial subunit known as SHY. Official units would be TTS, which stands for Taeyeon, Tiffany, and Seohyun, and OGG, which has Taeyeon, Yoona, Yuri, Hyoyeon, and Sunny, or the 5 remaining members that are with SM Entertainment. Last, but by no means least in brand ranking, the face of the group and center would be our forever visual, Yoona. And that's why she's usually at the center of most of the choreography, especially the girls' famous aforementioned, which they use to end the song. It still gives me chills. OT9 is the best, in my opinion. It's the group at its strongest. Lastly, I Got a Boy is fun for music and non-music girlies alike. When Jessica says, let's bring it back to 140, she's referring to the fact that this section is 140 beats per minute. And when I first watched the music video, 1 minute 40 seconds was the refrain. I got a boy. So Jessica was signaling the fact that the girls were returning to that section of the song. It was very cool. But back to NMIXX's debut. NMIXX's debut was a single album that included their debut as well as another song, Tank. JYPE refuses to give NMIXX their own sound as they are musically and lyrically following other groups. The instrumental of this song reminds me of the debut of SM's newest girl group, and I was glad that they got the production right this time and weaved together the different song styles flawlessly. I actually thought it was kinda cute that the song's title and lyrics were Tank, because I felt that it was a callback to the song BDZ, which stands for Bulldozer, which is a Japanese comeback from their seniors Twice. Like BDZ, Tank takes a turn. For Twice, it was in the music video. When we saw the photos of BDZ, many fans, including myself, were excited because we thought that Twice was finally doing a girl crush concept. Turns out the girls were still doing the cute song, but wearing tighter clothes and more eye makeup. Once they tried to change concept after Fancy, I think we realized that not every girl group needs to give us difficult choreography and super intense aesthetics, but at least Twice gave us some great songs before going back to form. I know that there's a music video teaser for Tank, but I've only heard the song and read the lyrics, and that's all I need for me. This reverse charm is not just disappointing, it's disturbing. Twice's BDZ is a love song in which the girls hope to barrel into their love's hearts like a bulldozer, like a tank, like a soldier. It's a puppy love that can be a little problematic as the person on the other side only has two choices, yes or yes. I'm not a once, I'm just mentally invested in Twice, I don't want to talk about it. It's a little much, but the girls always sound and look cute. I'm ready to admit that I might be the problem, I might be the enemy of progress here, maybe I'm not in the spirit as much as I should be, but the lyrics of Tank are too sexual for a group this young. Even before getting more, or maybe less context by looking through the lyrics because they barely make sense, the girls announce that they are freaky fresh in the chorus in English. When I heard this, it ruined the song and it curbed any interest I had in following this group for a while. 1. This song isn't age appropriate. The youngest member of this 7-member girl group is going to be 16 in 2 months, and the oldest member will turn 20 near the end of the year. This is a group of teens, which I just call older kids, and barely legal adults, so it's uncomfortable to hear them sing about being freaky because adults who know better told them to. Secondly, it's disappointing how JYPE hired all these talented grown-ups to write OO, and instead of giving the girls creative and age-appropriate lyrics in Tank, they just decided to be lazy and creepy and have them say ridiculous lines about being freaky fresh. And for what? No one in their right mind thinks the girls are so young or so freaky. We are saying go to school. Go to school. Lastly, it's just so sad how these girls sing about showing us some new things when JYPE has made sure that they're unoriginal as possible. I just referenced other girl groups when discussing the style of their songs, but what's really unfortunate is that they are continuing the tradition of young girls in the K-pop industry of being sexualized. Whether in music or in management, JYPE continues to drop the ball. However, I have hope for the girls. JYPE is desperate enough to listen to our feedback. Since Twice is the only group, not just girl group, the only active group at JYPE that is bringing the company money and keeping them relevant, I think that JYPE will realize that the girl crush concept should be left to SM for now. Somehow, SM's making that special noise that the fans of their new girl group and ever-expanding boy group universe want to hear. Actually, let me clarify. Whether or not the 4th gen songs produced by SM are actually good, the fans will buy them anyway and lie on Twitter until you also like the song. It happened to me. It'll happen to you too. Yeah. I took a poll on my Twitter at BlackGirlTalksPop, that's BLK Girl Talks Pop, which is also my handle on Instagram and TikTok, by the way. And the kind souls that answered every Twitter poll, thanks to y'all, also agreed that NMIXX's best concept is their cute one. I'm not sure what to call it, but I like it. It's either Winx Goes Punk or a pop rock quinceañera. You decide. But it was not only age appropriate, it was the best of the 3 songs that OO gave us. I'd love to see them taking the baton of Dreamcatcher's rock concept and creating their own Teen Crush concept. Maybe, if we're just borrowing from other girl groups, they could expand on the video game concept that Cherry Bullet used in their debut. Q&A is still one of my top 5 debut songs. I literally screamed when I heard it in the To All the Boys I Loved Before last movie that we won't talk about. I literally listen to it every few months. Love it so much. Highly recommend. And I will put it in the description below. I also think that there's hope for NMIXX because they're not the first girl group that's had a rough start. My second ultimate girl group is the perfect 9-member lineup of 9 muses. Their song, I Don't Want No Playboy, no, was criticized by the public, and their forever leader Sarah shared that filming the music video had been harrowing for the girls, especially the underage members. If they had been managed better, they could have achieved a level of success of a group like Sistar, who became known as the Queens of Summer, even though they weren't from a big 3 company. With NMIXX being from JYPE, which is a big 3 company along with SM and YG, we know the girls are talented, even if their talent is just being pretty. We also know that JYPE has a twice money, money, and access to talented lyricists, composers, and producers who can give the girls a discography that can win over Korea's hearts and make international waves as well. The question is if whether JYPE is willing to dedicate the time and energy to be intentional about separating NMIXX from the pack of girl crush and dark concepts and creating a safe space for these young girls to thrive. We'll see. I want to talk about the journey I had with Got the Beat's debut, Step Back, and why I'm not pleased with the way this group has been treated. I won't really talk about the misogynistic lyrics of their song, as it has been covered by a lot of people already. I want to talk about how I felt SM let me down and how they marketed this group. If you'd like a deep dive into the song's lyrics or find other creators to support, I've linked Form of Therapy's breakdown of the song and music video, as well as a hilarious line-by-line reading done by the podcast 106 in Seoul. Enjoy! If you don't know, Got the Beat is the girl group band's answer to Super M. If that doesn't help, in 2019, SM Entertainment decided to form a super group from the favored, highly talented, members from different boy groups signed under the company. Taeyeon, the maknae of the second generation group SHINee and a successful solo artist, Baekhyun, the vocalist and most popular member, and Kai, the main dancer and visual of the third generation group EXO, as well as Taeyeon and Mark, the main rappers and faces of the NCT groups, as well as Lucas, a rapper and visual of NCT 127, who was beloved by international fans, became members of the group that SM Entertainment would call the Avengers of K-pop. Fans had mixed reactions to this. EXO-Ls, or fans of EXO, were annoyed because EXO hadn't had a comeback in a while and many members were due to enlist soon, as required by Korea. While some fans were excited by the idea of their faves performing together, the Avengers concept felt a little dated and not in the way that K-pop is usually a few years behind global trends. By the way, when I say generation, I'm referring to the time period in which a group or solo artist debuted. First generation generally includes artists that debuted in the 90s or before Super Junior debuted in 2005. From there, each fan's idea of which group is in what generation might be a little different. In my opinion, second generation starts in 2005 and ends in 2012 when EXO debuted. Fourth generation is where it gets really murky, but I think that it starts in 2018, the year of Idol's debut. The problem with fourth generation is that it includes groups like Luna that has several members that debuted with their solo singles in 2016, along with groups like Cosmic Girls and Gupudon that are generally considered to be third gen. NCT is a group in a similar situation as their first unit, NCT U, also debuted in 2016. But back to Super M. I first learned about Super M when Courtney and Jasmine on the YouTube channel Tumanji Junkie were discussing their feelings as fans of many SM groups, especially SHINee. Now that my K-pop news mostly comes from Twitter, I didn't hear about Got the Beat so much as see and hear screenshots and soundbites from the performance video. When I saw a picture of Seohyun and Taeyeon together, I was intrigued, as they're famously awkward with each other, and I decided to finally check out the song. I was dismayed by what I saw. This first point is a little petty, but like I Got a Boy, Got the Beat's debut would be the first time that new K-pop fans who have only kept up with fourth generation groups have seen the members of Girls' Generation. So why does Seohyun have pink hair? Every someone knows that part of Seohyun's brand is her blonde hair and strong scalp. Blonde Seohyun is her most powerful form. I hated seeing that we didn't get to witness the Seohyun that we know and love. And even though her line distribution and screen time didn't seem to be wonky in terms of numbers, it felt like we didn't see her enough. As I'm watching the video, I'm catching on to what Got the Beat is. I see Taeyeon, and then I see Seohyun and Wendy, who are members of the third generation group Red Velvet. Wendy must have had an extra shot of espresso in her iced Americano because I haven't seen her this energetic since Power. Lover or hater, she did a good job, so it wasn't surprising that the Wendy fans reunited in the comments to hype up their girl. Once I realized that this was SM's female supergroup, I was excited to see other fans' reactions, but I was very confused when people kept mentioning Boa. I'm not following aespa, so I just assumed that anyone I didn't know was a member of that girl group, and I kept seeing 3 unfamiliar faces. I had thought that there was a very talented member who started off the song. I thought it's a little weird that a member of aespa is singing first since Taeyeon's right there, but maybe they're setting her up to be the next Taeyeon or Boa. Speaking of Boa, people just kept mentioning her. They kept saying how it's amazing that there were 4 generations of K-pop in one song, and I was getting annoyed. I finally decided to ask Google for an article that I could smugly post to Twitter to prove my point. I was shocked to see that the expert singer and dancer that I thought was a member of aespa was actually Boa. No wonder she was so good, and the voice was so familiar. My bad. Then I thought, no, it's SM and maybe even Boa's bad. Why does Boa look like a strong 22 to 25 years old? Maybe it's because the spirit behind one comment that I saw in one of their behind the scenes videos. I'll paraphrase. It's so great that Boa managed to fit in with the aespa members. Wait, what? You're glad that a K-pop icon who celebrated 20 years in the industry the year aespa debuted, whose career includes being the first SM solo act? She debuted in 2000 at around 13 years old, and she would not only go on to save SM from bankruptcy, she would be the first Korean act to sell 1 million copies in Japan and go on to top Japan's Oricon chart. Through her career, she has inspired women with her empowering songs, such as Girls on Top, whose first letters form the GOT, and Got the Beat. She's literally a living legend. So what the aespa fans should be saying is that they're glad that their faves are not embarrassing themselves in front of their hero and a national treasure. Ageism hurts everyone. Any comment about Boa fitting in or keeping up is a backhanded compliment and it's disrespectful. Boa's so busy trying to fit in with girls half her age that she's not able to stand out visually as a leader, all-rounder, and center of the group. Instead, she decides to dabble in cultural appropriation and get some braids, and as expected, she's looked better. However, talent will always speak for itself, and her voice and dance skills shine in the music video anyway. I hope that some of the younger viewers or newer fans look past ignorance and discover Boa's music for themselves. When I realized what Got the Beat actually was, then I was disappointed. Super M had a press release that made waves through K-pop. They had a music video that everyone anticipated, and in spite of the shallow nature of the song, at least the music video lived up to the hype. You felt like you were watching superheroes. Kai's entrance was a callback to his superpower of teleportation according to EXO lore. Taeyeon had a moment to show off his dance moves as he's known for being a great performer. and the boys concluded their introduction of the concept of jumping and popping, don't talk about it, by performing in a CGI-powered arena. The whole event was an epic moment in history, as the guys were able to perform on several late-night shows in the States, and even have a tour which they performed songs from Super M's album. On the other hand, 4 generations of K-pop are in the female supergroup Got The Beat. One of the members is the reason that SM Entertainment still exists, and all we have is one song, with a music video that's basically an elevated performance version. We also have behind the scenes moments where we see that Taeyeon is still awkward with Boa after all these years, and colorism remains K-pop's open secret, as Boa refers to young Seohyun as tanned, and seems to reflect Korea's negative perception of people with darker skin. The podcast How You What You discusses this latest quote-unquote translation mistake in more detail, and I mostly agree with their opinions, except the part where they say that colorism and racism aren't the same thing. I think that colorism is a derivative of racism, as it's a rejection of darker skin, which is mostly associated with Black people. I don't think someone can participate in colorism and not be racist against Black people. For me, those actions go hand in hand. In spite of the problematic actions of the members of Got The Beat, I still think that they deserve just as much effort, if not more than what SM did for Super M. And I think that the pandemic is a convenient excuse to not give the girls an amazing album and accompanying virtual concert and album rollout. During the pandemic, SM managed to give Boa a reality show and a beautiful revisit of her career for her 20th anniversary, and I recommend that you check both out. I think they missed an opportunity to use Got The Beat to bring attention to 4 K-pop acts. This situation shows me that no matter who you are or how much you accomplish, prejudice of any kind will always rear its ugly head. Boa carried SM on her back for years, so when she finally wanted to join the group, the question should have been, what do you want to do, Boa? The sky's the limit. This is going to make history. Unfortunately, the moment marking 20 years of K-pop and SM Entertainment came and went, and fans were left to conclude that some of the most talented female artists at SM gathered together to make a song. And instead of having a moment to celebrate each member's talent, or highlight how amazing women can be when we band together, the ladies tell us that we're not on their level and we should step back from their man's wandering eye. If anything, this era reminded us that female solo and group acts will come and go. Regardless of their concept, misogyny will be an ever-present shadow. With that, let's end the episode with our next segment, Enemies of Progress, where I'll chat with a friend of the podcast. Let's talk about these enemies of progress that block the path towards Black liberation.
So, did you ever think that they're getting back together when they said, like, oh, we're taking a break?
I don't think so. I just don't think that all the members want to go back to making music. Okay, here's the thing. I think eventually every group will come back together at some point. So I think that they'll have their time. Because, I mean, right now it's JLS, with Marv and them doing that at this time. So I think that there's definitely going to be a comeback. I don't know if it's something that they think about, though. I don't think it's something that they like, oh, I can't wait to make music again together. Like, some groups who are not together for whatever reason, they, can't wait to get back together and be in the studio and make music together because that's what they love. I feel like it's a little bit different. I think that also, too, some of the girls have not great memories of the time. So I don't think that it's going to motivate them to do it. But if there's money to be had in it, then they'll do it for sure. And it's not like the girls hate each other. Like, it's not or it's not like in the case of like Girls Aloud, one member is so popular that they don't need it. So I think that's also like a big difference because Cheryl doesn't need Girls Aloud. She can just do all the gay pride parades performances that she's been doing lately. And she's fine. She doesn't need it, and the girls didn't really have like that great of a relationship at the end as well. So like there's a lot of factors that sort of contributed to that. Whereas I think the difference is the girls in the Saturdays, they like each other.
Yeah.
They still communicate. I think there's still hope for it, and I don't know if they're going to do like more of a greatest hits thing, or if they're actually going to give it the old college try and try to make music again together. I think it can be a little bit difficult for girls groups to do that, right. To be honest. Yes. So I don't know. I would love it. I mean, I do like regularly, Google like the Saturdays just to see like what people are saying, to be honest, about them at this point, because it also is something that the fans will need to want, right? Like, I would love it. I would definitely go and see them. So we'll see.
I definitely agree with you. I feel that they're in that space that I feel that Girls' Generation's in, where they're just like in the thick of their solo careers. And they're like, that was nice, but I now have this opportunity to do what I want to do. So it's just like a fond memory almost.
I think with Girls Aloud, I think if they could do it, I think they would. Like, even though they have all these solo things, I think if there was a chance, if SM was like, okay, so we want you guys to make music again, I think that they would all be on board with Girls Aloud. Not Girls Aloud, with Girls' Generation. My bad. A lot of girl groups with the word girl in it. I'm sorry.
I was with you.
Yeah. So I feel also like, not to make this about K-pop and stuff like that none of these girls are like, outside of like Yuna and Taeyeon and Seohyun maybe, like I don't think any of these other girls are, at the same level. But because the Saturdays was never really like a top tier group, I feel like what Rochelle's doing now has probably made her more of a household name than being in the Saturdays. Yeah. So I do think that there's like, for her, maybe, maybe for Una in Ireland, compared to, and maybe Molly with her radio show, like maybe in comparison to the other girls, like they might weigh their option and be like, well, this is doing enough for me. I don't really need it as much. Whereas like, even as popular as Taeyeon is, like she's not as popular as Girls' Generation was, like she's not bigger than the group.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I kind of would like to have comebacks from all the girl groups, to be honest, like Skara style, but who knows, like at this point it really is companies' desire, willingness, fans' reception, like there's so many things that go into it. And as I said, like not to pound on like a dead horse or anything, like girl groups is just a bit harder for them, I think, to do these things. Like if One Direction were to come back together, they'd be selling out like everywhere. So it's not going to be the same case for a lot of these girl groups, no matter how popular they used to be. So it's just unfortunate.
There just seems to be this like women cannot age for some reason.
Another thing. I mean, youth is sort of a factor in beauty for a lot of people. Like regardless of how somebody actually looks, as long as they're young, like that means that they're attractive. And so that has always been one of the things that has negatively affected women more than men. So that's also kind of something that has to go into play. And that's why, you see like a lot of women who do things to their faces to make them look younger. That personally makes them look worse, but that's just my opinion on the matter. It's a trend thing, right? This is what all the Instagram baddies look like, so I guess we have to look like it too. So I get it.
That's the thing about trends. Like trends will go away, and then you look back and say, what happened to my face? Yeah,
absolutely. And some of the things you do to your face, you cannot undo. So it's just really, really unfortunate, especially when you see that these women, have like some very empowering lyrics in some cases, and then they turn around and like succumb to what is trendy at the time.
Right.
Before we end our time together, I have a few requests. If you're listening to this podcast, please follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or wherever you're listening. If it's available, please give this podcast a 5-star rating so more people can find it, and leave a review or comment to let me know how I'm doing. I'd love to know your thoughts so we can chat, and I want to know how I can continue to grow and give you a better listening experience. If you're watching this podcast on YouTube, give this video a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Leave a comment there as well. If you're looking forward to future episodes, I try to drop at least one teaser leading up to the episode, so go over there and catch a sneak peek. Or have a different experience of the podcast, as you'll be able to see my tier rankings and more. If you love this podcast and want more, support me on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you can have the full episodes of Season 2 and onward, as much juicy content as your heart desires. If you want to catch more of my thoughts, please be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BLKGirlTalksPop. Send me a Twitter message because I spend most of my time there, but I do share fun memes on Instagram, so you don't want to miss those. If you're a fangirl like I am and have a confession your own secret obsession about anything I've discussed, or you want to introduce me to a K-pop variety show from 2006, or a Christian artist that made one album in 2009, email me at blackgirltalkspop@gmail.com. Because I decided to be my own enemy of progress. This email address is spelled as BLACK girltalkspop@gmail.com. That's BLACK girltalkspop@gmail.com. Check this out. All the boys want my heart? Before I get too lost in my phase, let's close this episode with a prayer. Pray for me, y'all, and know that I'm always praying for you and cheering you on. Lord, I want to take this time to express gratitude for the amazing woman in my life. I'm thankful for those who have prayed for and with me, spoken encouragement over me, and reminded me of the unique traits and talents that you've given me for your good purpose. I pray that you will bless them and use me and others in their lives to remind them of how beautiful, brilliant, and amazing they are. Help them to see themselves as individuals made to enjoy this life and accomplish incredible things. Help them know that their perspective needs to be heard. Don't let them be stifled or thwarted by fear or doubt. I pray that the promise of the fulfillment of a dream deferred, the satisfaction from hard work towards a goal that seemed impossible, or even the contentment that comes when one decides to follow their own joy and find rest in their interest, inspire them to move forward, expectant of the wonder that lies ahead. During this month, we often celebrate women banding together, but I pray that you will also help us ladies to enjoy our own company as well. Help us to not fear the silence, but embrace it. Help us to truly love and appreciate ourselves, so when someone compliments us, they are confirming the greatness that we already see in ourselves. I pray that any outside validation will only add to the positive story that we have written about ourselves. Help us to not hold on to others for comfort or chase after others for acceptance. Help us to look within and fully receive the unconditional love that you have for us. Help us to see the beauty that you have given us. Let us be overwhelmed by the depth of your passion and tenderness for us. Even when we feel lonely, remind us that we are not alone when we're with you. This year is already flying by, and we're tempted to return to the rat race of striving and competition. Help us to slow down and be present in every moment. Help us to see this moment of our lives as sacred and truly and fully savor it. Give us the strength to accept our limitations and ask for help, or raise our boundaries and give ourselves room to rest. As spring begins and the nature around us starts to bloom, help us to let go of empty relationships, draining tasks, or anything else that prevents our growth. Some of us have been holding on to certain people or things and we've let them define us, but you have so much more. I pray that someone out there will listen to the urge that you've put on their heart and surrender that hard part to you. That season is over, but something new, something better is on the way. It's time for us to grow. It's scary, but I'm right there with you. It's time to let the past go. It's difficult to release the familiar, but in time, I know that we'll feel a lot better. Lord, continue to heal our hearts and help us to be kind to ourselves along the way. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. That's all I have for today. Remember that you're wonderfully and fearfully made, and I'll let you know when I've got something else to say. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.